That was my idea. This is the 4th of July. Today's the 4th of July. Does anybody have a memorable?
I'll start out, okay? I'll
Yeah.
tell you that one memorable thing was a concert over in Canton with both Thelma and Clem and Thelma. They took me with them to the concert, patriotic songs. I don't know what music, I don't know what orchestra or anything it was, but I do remember going with them, and it was a fine Fourth of July celebration. Period. Somebody else can go next, okay? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Cindy
Hi,
or
Linda.
Linda.
Okay, yeah, just a couple quick. I don't know that I have anyone in particular, but I remember I think it was 1974 because I know my one grandma had just passed away a few weeks prior to that. But I remember that Akron Beacon Journal that there was like this big headlines on the top how basically like fireworks light up the sky, but technically what it was, and it reminded me of the storm that Chuck was talking about in 69, but this was in 74. But basically we just had really bad storms that July 4th. So you think of storms in the summer, but July 4th, we've had pretty good weather, but that particular year, I mean, I do remember, I don't know that it was multi-day, but I do remember we had just really bad storms that day. So I would have been 15. I guess I had just turned 15. And then the only other thing I was going to mention, because when we were kids, sometimes you'd see, go to different places and see fireworks. I don't know in Akron if anybody's familiar with the Tanger Hotel. It's kind of like an Akron landmark. Well, and that's been closed for a while, but for many years it was open as big Akron landmark, like I said. But they had like rooftop parking, and so what people would do, and we did this for several years when our kids were small. Basically, with Fourth of July, people would just like park their car, go up to the rooftop, and you didn't park up there, but you would walk for Fourth of July. They would have fireworks from downtown Akron, but you were kind of at a vantage point because you were somewhat elevated, and probably a few hundred people just from all around Akron. They would just come and stand on this rooftop parking lot to watch the fireworks from downtown Akron, and that was just. Yeah, we just took the kids when they were small, and it was kind of a big deal. And you were always excited when it would, not quite dark, but maybe dusk. So, I don't know, 9:15. And there were some years they were pretty long. I don't know if they went as long as an hour, but 30, 45 minutes, which for fireworks is a long time. And then I think there may have been a couple of things in our neighborhood. We had a few people that they would make like homemade ice cream was their thing. And so we would kind of get together on holidays like the 4th of July and do that with neighbors. So that's not anyone in particular standing out, but just kind of like these little events that, just through the years. So
Okay, Cindy, you want to go next?
Okay. Um, the 4th of July is spread out. Like Detroit already had their fireworks and we watched it on TV. The dogs don't like fireworks. We actually can see fireworks from our backyard, but I usually just watch them on TV because it scares the dogs.
yeah,
And you can see the picture of me behind this past
that's nice.
Sunday. Charla and Doug and Brady came to visit, and we went to Cleveland with Barb, and that was nice. And that's a
That,
picture of us at Margaritaville. So that
that's
was
a nice
nice.
picture.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
today, Rick and I just had a quiet day around the house, so that's fine. I have a picnic to go to tomorrow, um, but no big deal, just a picnic.
Yeah.
Actually, it's with the Red Hatters.
Did you want to talk about more about your visit with Charla and Barbara and Brady?
No, no, you go ahead and talk about the 4th of July.
I
All
did
right,
have, oh,
go
well, go
ahead,
ahead.
go
I'll wait till
ahead.
Chuck's done, but I did have one more thing to add. I forgot, but I'll wait till Chuck's done.
No, no, well, I'm going last.
Okay. Well, this is just really quick. So I guess because I did read, your account of your agenda for tonight, but there was one that stood out, and I just kind of just thought of it because the memories I were giving you were just basically, just kind of like a smattering, if you will, just nothing in particular. But there was one in particular I thought of since then. In 1985, Kate was 2.5 because she would have been 3 in September that year. But in 1985, we had gone down to Disney World. Our kids are real spread out, so she was the only one that was here. And I do remember that we were at Disney World down in Florida on July the 4th. And I remember because when you were talking, Cindy, about like dogs not liking fireworks, Kate didn't like them either. She didn't like the loud sounds. And so Disney World, they make kind of a big production. They have like I think they call it like an electric parade, or at least they did at that point, electric parade at
Yes.
night. And July 4th was just that much more, just the parade, but then, you have fireworks and all this stuff going on. And and so with Kate, when the fireworks started going off, she was not happy at all. So Andy and I were kind of like deciding, okay, who's going to take Kate? And we're going to have to go somewhere else because this is like, and she was always a really good, my kids were all pretty good when they were younger, but she just was very annoyed, not happy. So basically, I don't know if you've ever been to Disney World, but they have like the movie, I think they call it like the surround sound, but the picture, it's literally like it's like a 360, it's kind of like around you. So Andy stayed outside. I literally took her into this venue with this movie 360 around you. I think Kate and I were the only ones in that room because everybody else was outside enjoying the fireworks and the festivities. But Kate was she was a lot happier once I took her inside. She had a lot of earaches when she was small, and she did outgrow them, but I think that the sensitivity to the noise just really bothered her. So obviously we felt really bad for her. We wanted to enjoy the fireworks, but we didn't want her to put her in a situation that was just extremely uncomfortable for her. So we just made the best of the situation, took her inside, but we ended up having the whole room to ourselves. So that was pretty nice, and got to see a nice little like a 360 movie. So that does stand out as probably one of my more specific July
Do you,
July 4th memory, but all's well that ends well.
do you remember the name of the movie you saw?
You know what? I couldn't tell you specifically, except that at Disney World, I think that they had, I think, I want to say it was kind of like their own production. So I don't think it was anything that we would have gone to the movie
Okay.
theater to see. I think it was something that I want to say maybe it was like a trip around the world. I don't think it was to other Disney properties because at that time there's been some Disney properties made since then. So I don't know if it was like an extended commercial for Disney. My thought it was basically maybe it was just kind of like highlights of different tourist attractions around the world, but I couldn't tell you for sure. I don't remember. I know that there was a lot of sound, and I
But
think
it didn't make you dizzy or anything like that.
no, it was just
Okay.
basically because I think we had gone into it. We were down there for a couple of days. We had actually. This was still kind of like when money was still really tight, and how we ended up going down there was kind of interesting. We bought used cars for probably the first 20 years of our marriage. We couldn't afford anything else. And when we had bought, they called it a K car. And with Cindy, with you being from Detroit, you might be maybe familiar with some of these. But anyway, out in Kent, which is about a maybe 20-30 minute drive from us, they had this deal going that if you spent so much on a car, you actually got a free trip to Florida. And we were always like looking for these freebies. And so he was pretty good at negotiating, and he still is. And so basically, we're kind of going back and forth, but I think I was at home with Kate, and he would keep calling me, well, what do you think of this car? What do you think of that car? And I said, I don't care, but I said, just get the deal because we were just looking for a free vacation. And I felt really bad for the salesman because, obviously they were trying to get you to spend a lot of money on a car. And I think at that time, I think you only had to spend like $2,000-3,000, which, adjusted for today's cost, is it 8-10,000? I don't know. But we ended up getting the car. I think it was like 2,000, 2,500. It was very little, if at all, above the amount. But we ended up getting, I think it was free airfare, hotel, and tickets into Disney World, plus the car, all for a couple $1,000s. And at that time, and they've since changed that, but I think at that time, if you traveled with a child and they were under 3, they could travel on your lap. They don't do that now, but at that time they did. So essentially, there was no charge for Kate. I think the only thing we might have had to pay, I think we rented a car, and I think we did have to pay for that. We were always looking for like we always wanted to go away and have vacations, but we always looked for very frugal ways to do that. And we still do, but certainly not like we did then. But I think our whole trip was under $300. We did not end up putting much out of our pockets. So that was another, we have some pretty interesting stories with our early days, but it was good, yeah. So we ended up having a nice time. We got practically a free trip and, a car for, pretty good price. So, and the car lasted, it lasted quite a while. So, and I think we actually even have pictures of that car. I think that was one of the cars we drove up to Montreal. So we have a picture. That's when Cabbage Patches were really popular. And there's a picture of Kate, and she has like her Cabbage Patch on top of the car. I'll have to see if I can find that and
Aw.
post it. But so anyway, so.
Okay, it's 7:55. It's 7:55. I'm gonna go last. After I play my video, I have lots of memories of 4th of July, fireworks, uh, as both as an adult and as a father with kids and parades and all that kind of stuff. But I picked something that's rather unique. I'll just play it and you can see. But it did happen on 4th of July, 2007. So here it goes. And again, this is all made up stuff.